to do. But now Republicans have been in control for 2 years. Everything in Washington, White House, House, Senate. They've won governorships, including here in Florida. What have they done with that power? No, it's not true they haven't done nothing. That's not true. They cut taxes for the rich just like they did the last time. They stripped out rules to protect our air and water just like they did the last time. They ran up the deficit just like the last time. Just like the last time. And by the way, they actually know none of this is popular, which is part of the reason why, just like the last time, they're actively trying to disenfranchise voters to keep them from voting. They're also resorting to the same tactic that they did the last time, which is to try to scare folks with whatever boogeyman or divisive social issues they can come up with, just like they did the last time. Let's take a look at what they've been up to. They promised to take on corruption. Instead, they have racked up enough indictments to field a football team. You know, I didn't have anybody in my administration get indicted. I mean, I just thought that's how you're supposed to do things. They pledged to fight for the little guy. Instead, they doled out $1.5 trillion in tax cuts aimed at billionaires and corporations. Don't boo. Vote. Let me tell you something. Republicans can't hear you boo, but they can hear you vote. So they did not even pretend to pay for these tax cuts. And of course, deficits shot up. That's what happened. Except just 2 weeks ago, the Republican leader in Congress said, you know, now that we've gotten our tax cuts passed, we're very disturbed with the deficit. We need to bring them down. We're going to have to cut programs like Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security. Hey, don't take my word for it. Look it up. That's what he said. In fact, look up anything I say today, because I promise you, I believe in a fact-based campaign. The point is that cutting Medicare and Social Security and Medicaid to pay for tax cuts for folks like Rick Scott does not sound like fighting for a little guy to me. You want somebody... Actually, I think that, hold on a second. There's an interesting observation I want to make. Why is it that, hold on. Why is it that the folks that won the last election are so mad all the time? Question. I mean, like when I won the presidency, at least my side felt pretty good. You know, I don't know why. It tells you something interesting. That even the folks who are in charge are still mad. Because they're getting ginned up to be mad. that's the mindset. So you want somebody who's actually going to work for working people? Andrew Gillum, somebody. He's going to work for working people. Andrew's mom is right here. That's where he got his good looks from. Andrew was raised by a construction worker, a school bus driver. Had to work his way up the hard way to become mayor of Tallahassee. He knows the promise of this country, so he's not going to work. He's not going to work for people who had it handed to him. He's going to work for the people who had to work their way up, just like his parents did, to look after their families. Andrew has lived the American dream. And if you give him your vote, he will fight to make sure every child in Florida has the same chance that this state and this country gave him. Let's talk about health care for a second. 8 years ago, Democrats passed the Affordable Care Act. That law helps cover almost 1.6 million people just here in Florida. That law made it illegal for the first time for insurers to discriminate against folks who had a pre-existing condition. And by the way, for the young people here, you may not think about pre-existing conditions, but when you get to be 57, because insurance companies, they could categorize all kinds of things as pre-existing conditions. If you had asthma, you might not get insurance, or it'd be really expensive. If you had cancer, they might not give you insurance. Just being a woman was considered a pre-existing condition because they would charge women more than men for insurance, which, when you think about it, makes absolutely no sense, because the condition women have is the power to give birth to us. And it seems to me you wouldn't want to charge somebody more for bringing us into the world. That's just my opinion. So we put in a law that said, no, you got to charge women the same as men. You can't discriminate based on pre-existing conditions. And okay, that's great. So, and by the way, on that vote, not a single Republican joined us. Not one. Zero. Nada. Zilch. None. Goose egg. None. None of them supported us. Now suddenly it's election season, and what happens? You've got Republicans out there saying, oh, well, we will protect pre-existing conditions. Trust us. Let's look at the record. Andrew's opponent was in Congress and voted to sabotage or repeal the ACA and protections conditions every chance he got. Bill's opponent, Rick Scott, don't boo, vote. So Bill's opponent is literally suing the government to overturn pre-existing protections as we speak. When I was president, Republicans voted more than a dozen times to get rid of protections for people with pre-existing conditions. Last year, they fell one vote short. One vote. If they win this Tuesday, they'll finally succeed. If they keep control of Congress, you better believe they're coming after your health care. Florida, we can't let Rick Scott become the deciding vote that guts your pre-existing conditions. protections. In all of his time in office, Rick Scott could have expanded Medicaid and covered 800,000 more Floridians with health care. 800,000. Those are families. Rick DeSantis wouldn't even try. So if you want change, Andrew Gillum will expand Medicaid coverage. If you vote for him and you vote for a Democratic state legislature to help him, your vote could give 800,000 Floridians just like that the security of health care coverage. Democrats aren't going to let Republicans cut your pre-existing conditions protections. Democrats aren't going to let Republicans gut your Medicare to pay for their tax cuts. They're going to protect your care, period. But here's the main point I want to make, Florida. If Republicans thought their tax cut for billionaires was popular, they'd be campaigning on it, right? You don't hear a peep out of them. This was their main legislative accomplishment in Congress. They have not mentioned it in a single ad. If Republicans thought their endless votes to sabotage or take away your health care was popular, that's what they'd be campaigning on. You don't hear a peep from them about that. In fact, right at election time, suddenly Republicans are saying they're going to protect your pre-existing conditions when they've literally been doing the opposite. That's some kind of gall. That's some kind of chutzpah. Let's call it what it is. It's a lie. They're lying to you. A former Republican Congressman, David Jolly, just cast his vote. He voted for Andrew Gillum. He said, the reason simple is because I've served with Ron DeSantis. That should tell you something. Let me tell you, somebody who had served with me in my party, voted for the other guy, I'd feel bad. I don't imagine Congressman Jolly and Mayor Gillum agree on a lot, but maybe they, just like all of us, agree that there's some things bigger than politics. And that's on the ballot right now. What kind of politics do we want? Do we want a politics where people are yelling at each other and making lewd gestures in front of the children? Can't do that in front of mamas. Look, throughout human history, politicians have made promises that turned out to be harder than they expected, and so they pump up the good things that they did. They downplay the stuff that didn't work out. They try to put a positive. We're okay. They try to put a positive spin on things. It's not just politicians, by the way, that do that. Y'all do that too. You know, sometimes, Andrew, maybe this doesn't happen with you and your wife, but sometimes I'm at home and I'm doing the dishes. I say, hey, hon, look, I did the dishes. Michelle says, that's the first time in a month you've done dishes. Don't brag about it. I'm putting a positive spin on things. Then she asked me, what'd you do wrong? Otherwise, you wouldn't be doing the dishes. We all try to put a positive spin on things. But what we have not seen the way we're seeing right now is politicians just blatantly